Hi again. Welcome to Nightshade After Dark. Here my guest is Isaac on my right, and on my left is Donald. And now today what we're talking about is shared spaces.
It seems that sometimes sharing a space works out for some people, maybe a natural chemistry, but for the most part, I think when it works out for people, it's pretty rare. But for the most part, it's really going into like uncharted territory, and it takes some time before anything good can happen. But sometimes it can be a bad experience for everyone, for many different reasons.
What do you say about that, Donnie?
People have different expectations on cleanliness. I personally need like a toilet to be clean. It can't have like poop in it. It can't have piss on it or anything like that. I usually take like a sanitary wipe and literally like wipe the toilet seat off because I can't. Even in like a public washroom, like I'll hold it in until I get home because I can't use like a public washroom.
Same here.
I can't. It's just.
What do you think about people leaving stuff out, or dishes, or clothes, or anything like that? What's your example?
Okay, so first of all, before we move on to that, I just want to mention
Yeah.
I agree with Donald over here with the sanitary wipes, and like I take it a step further. I actually keep hand sanitizer ready in my bag, and when I go to a public washroom, believe it or not, I drip a few drops on the toilet, and I wipe that thing down before using it. Now, as for like habits, leaving dishes behind, food out, stuff like that, for me personally, the space in my home or wherever it is that I'm like sleeping, if it's just a room or if it's the whole place, it has to be organized. It has to be clean. Like sometimes it can be ever so slightly messy, but for the most part, everything has to be in its place, and counters have to be spotless, and dishes have to be done. But that is because I've had some serious training. Like my mother was one of those people where I would do a chore on Sunday, like sweep, mop house, vacuum, and most people, maybe when their parents come home, they'll be like, oh, good job. But when my mom comes home, it's like, you missed a spot. And she would like pick up, I don't know, she has like some supervision for cleanliness. She'd pick up on the slightest thing, and she'd make me do that part and focus on that part and forget about everything else I did. So I had that kind of training at home, so that's why I'm like that. So I think it goes back to like the kind of living environment that you've grown up in and what the standards are there. And I think that's different for people, so it's kind of hard to understand one another in regards to that, and sometimes that can lead to problems when you're sharing a space.
What do you say about that, Donnie?
I agree. I agree with Isaac. For me, growing up, I was disciplined to clean after myself and everything. I have a pet peeve when someone leaves like stuff around because you can contract cockroaches, you can contract like mice or unwanted pests, and that's not cute at all. Like I don't want a cockroach in my macaroni and cheese. Like I don't want to eat cockroaches for dinner. Who wants that? So. Yeah, I completely agree. But some people have that excuse like, oh yeah, I had work. I don't want to wash this. So like compiles because they work all the time. Because I had an old roommate who she worked all the time and she just didn't do her chores at all. So her dishes compiled, and just like I was like, I'm done. You need to do them. There's no excuse for not doing a responsibility that you need to take care of because you need to do it. This is your own mess, and no one else is gonna clean it except for you.
Correct. Properties. What do you guys say about that? Because like through experience, properties is a main focus because you work for something and that's the thing that you put your hard earnings to get. So how do you guys feel about somebody touching or not asking and just borrowing? How do you feel?
Drives me nuts. Are you crazy? If someone's gonna like touch my stuff, I'd be like, who touched this? Like I don't know who's like who did what with it. You know, it's like my own personal space. I understand if you need like, let's say ketchup or condiment that you just want to put on your bread. It's good, but there needs to be some form of communication. So I know like if you're actually using it. I don't want no random person using it. Like what if they like licked it or something? Like that's really disgusting. So what
if you have like majority, like what if, let's say you have 5 people, like you're renting a room or you're with somebody and it's 5 people in the house. How would you estimate like who uses or what you can prevent how can you prevent a person from using or touching your things?
Just get a mini fridge. Get your own personal fridge or something, or cupboard to prevent people using it. Because I find like I'm willing to share personally. I'm willing to share. It's just that when they don't ask, or if I don't favor that person and they just take advantage of me and just like steal all the time, then I don't want to share my stuff or my personal belongings.
What do you say about Isaac?
Well, for me personally, when it comes to personal belongings, in my experience, I've kind of had some trust issues with regards to can I trust this person, and I agree with some of what Donnie said in regards to lack of communication, and also because we come from different places, a lack of understanding. Like me, I might be expecting that you come and ask me for permission and respect my belongings, but you might come from a background or a household where it's just like a free-for-all, and you know, it doesn't matter who worked hard for this, as long as you're friends or family, you can just go ahead and take it without saying anything to anybody. But on the other hand, having those trust issues kind of makes life for me frustrating, because I don't want to have to always be conscious of making sure that I keep my phone on me all the time. It kind of is frustrating. I wish I could just leave my belongings wherever, and the person that I'm living with or peoples that I'm living with would actually respect my property and try to get my permission and take into account that I need this because it's mine. Recently, to deal with this problem, what I did was on our fridge at home, because I live in a place where I share with 4 other people, and we have this fridge that is like a size reduction from our previous fridge.
Oh wow!
And it was replaced. And there's stuff in it, and people keep putting new things into it along with myself. And it's like, if I decide that I'm going to keep everything that I own to myself, like for example ketchup, someone else will just get another ketchup and they're going to put it in the fridge, and that's more space being taken up, and maybe the fridge is going to get too full. So what I decided, I put a note on the wall. I said, you know what, dear roommates, you can use my ketchup, you can use my mayonnaise, you can use my barbecue sauce. I'm okay with sharing. Just please put it back in the fridge and put the cap on it. Okay? So there was some level of communication there. And so if we can, like, if roommates can understand that we're all coming from different places and we all have different customs from wherever we came from, so we need to come to a common grounds by talking about it, so we can all try to live as comfortably as possible and do our day-to-day thing, that would make things regarding property a lot more comfortable.
Okay,
Man,
so
that was a mouthful, wasn't it?
That's good. That's good. So pretty much like you use a good method, just show people that, hey, you can use my things, it's okay, but just put it back and make sure like this, however you found it is the same way I get it back. And then my other thing is like, this is off topic probably. You have those roommates that like they get food and then they just store it and store it and store it in the fridge, and like it takes up so much space about it. So like with that is like, my understanding about it is like there's many people you can pretty much share that with, but why do we not do it? Or what makes us just collect that and then just have it thrown out for roommates?
Just one moment. First of all, before we really get in depth into that answer, it's not so much the storage that's the problem, but the subsequent stench that the food produces in the fridge. Like sometimes I come down from my room, which has fresh air and everything's good, and my nose has been taking in fresh air the whole time. Then I come down and I smell like something died in our home, and it's like overpowering. So again, I think personally that this goes back to the habits that we develop from wherever it is we came from.
Correct.
And because even in my fridge, we have things that are like old from like, I don't know, months ago.
Way back when.
Yeah, there's like meat in there and bread in there and milk and yogurt in there from a long time ago.
Wow.
None of it which belongs to me, and I can't do anything about it because I can't touch it. It belongs to somebody else.
And that's their property.
Exactly.
And with it comes a territory. That's correct.
Exactly.
What do you?
I'm done.
I'm personally guilty of this. I'm personally guilty. Well, sometimes I feel like when I get like food, I want to store it. I want to feel like I can eat it later on. But I'm guilty because I'll be like, oh crap, expired. I don't want to touch it. It probably has mold or something. I'm a hoarder. I just like to have a lot of stuff, but I know my like limits in storing food. So I'll know like, okay, I need to throw this out. I need to throw this loaf of bread that's been there for like over a year. That's like molded already. So I feel like people are similar with me. Like they just want to store more food, and the more food they have, the more they can eat it. Kind of. So.
And it's pretty much like if you have guests over, where you can actually like share it with them or your house, right? Okay, so I pretty much understand both sides of this, and like they both seem very very like well played out. So like hoarding is not really hoarding. You're just making preparations for like when people come over, when you have guests, or like some things that like if you realize that if you don't have good things, you have backup. You always got the backup.
Exactly.
So it makes sense. And for not throwing out throw out your stuff, but still have that backup. Makes sense.
Sharing a space, you need to learn how to. Everyone has different expectations.
Yeah.
So if someone thinks this table's dirty, like it has like ketchup, mustard all over it, someone else might think that's like not even dirty at all. People are brought up different cultural backgrounds, and they perceive cleanliness as either how they're raised up or how they're disciplined back home with their parents. So.
Yeah. How do we know like what is cleanliness, or what is the meaning of like clean? How can we ourselves understand like somebody else's like from their experience how clean that they have to be? Any suggestions?
Okay, so as Donald mentioned, the thing about shared space is that cleanliness is a huge factor.
Yeah.
Sometimes in my experience, you have someone who to me is not so clean or doesn't have a high standard of cleanliness, but will actually lecture or badger someone else about their cleanliness, because to them, even though to me that person who's doing the talking isn't that clean, to them the person they're talking to isn't that clean. So you can tell that there's like this different level when it comes to standard of cleanliness. For me, growing up where I came from, I used to do chores in my house, and I used to do things from vacuuming carpets, sweeping, mopping, under couches, dusting, all that stuff. And my mom was particularly the kind of parent who, as soon as she walked in, because I usually do the chores when she was out. So as soon as she walked in, even though I'd work really hard and like there's sweat on my brow, it's like you missed a spot. And you know, that's the kind of training that I had at home. So for me, there's a high level of cleanliness. Like right now, I sweep and mop my room like 3 times a week. So basically, sometimes when I'm living with other people, I personally find it difficult, but I don't always say anything to anybody.
And okay, and then with that, like with the, as you're talking about, like the hard labor, the hard cleaning up and down, doing as much as you can, and then what about your body though? Like also doing house chores and all that. What about ourselves? How clean do we have to present ourselves and mentally to like be able to be around somebody? Any suggestions, Donald?
Shower twice a day and wear deodorant. Yeah, I feel like people, like when you live with other people, you're obviously, there's always gonna be at least 1 or 2 people that are not going to like shower or be clean. I feel like you need to know that if you're dirty, you need to like realize that you need to clean up after yourself. Like you need to shower, you need to wear deodorant, and discipline yourself to know that you need to meet the standard of cleanliness around people. Because if you pass by someone and you smell, then you won't know, because some people don't know if they smell or not. So I feel like people should just maintain their hygiene really well.
Correct. What do you have to say about that, Isaac?
I think when it comes to a personal hygiene, it's still kind of the same as cleaning your living or environment. I think that again, if you come from different backgrounds where you're living, wherever you were living, there were different customs. Where showering wasn't that big of a deal, and if you showered once a week that you were clean, then You can find, again, just as that person is not really cleaning up after themselves with regard to the living space, you can also find just being around the person themselves to be unpleasant. For me, I have to shower at least 4 times during the week, and that's just me. Like I prefer to be clean. I prefer to smell good, and that's just how I feel. But not everyone that you're going to be living with is going to feel that way. And then the question you have to ask yourself is, what do you do about it? Because at the same time, you know, you might think to yourself, some people, like, they might jump straight into, like, you know, I'm going to go over there and snap at that person. I'm going to give them a piece of my mind. But then you realize, first of all, that might not necessarily work for the reasons that I mentioned before. And then you might also realize that it's not so much worth it, because you're not really going to get through to the person the way you want to because of these differences, and at the same time you could get yourself into trouble. So, like, how do you deal with it?
So with it, that's talking about like a conflict. How to avoid a dispute or argument, and to just avoid a fight. Is that correct?
And still be able to reach some kind of common ground with this person who to you is coming from a different place, and you to them are coming from a different place. So, like, you're not going to understand each other just like that. It's not going to be like automatic. So, like, both parties have to make some kind of effort to come to some kind of common ground. Yeah. To avoid conflict, but still help each other to live comfortably.
Correct. Donald?
Yes. I feel like it can escalate to drama. Yes. Getting over a fight over that kind of issue, I feel like, because I remember when I lived back at, like, when I was living on my own, and my roommate, she smelled really, really bad. Like, she did not shower often. She did not wear deodorant. And I confronted her. I'm like, you kind of smell. Like, I'm sorry, but. And then, soon enough, she got mad at me, and we got a huge dispute. And it's just because it's a personal thing. People take it offense. If you tell someone that they smell, they're gonna, like, go off on you, like, oh, you know. So.
Yeah, and with it, it's like you guys are friends. So to have that order of boundaries, it's fine to them, I guess. But for her to react like that, I don't know, like. I agree with you. Like, if you're my friend, take it how I'm telling you. Like, you smell, I'm giving you a little hint. If you're bringing over somebody, or if I'm bringing over somebody, I don't want that person that I'm with to be like, oh, she smells, or, you know, he smells. So I get you. That it's pretty good. Drama, right?
Oh.
We love drama and hate drama. So with any objections or any advice how to avoid something like that, or how to know when a drama is gonna start? I'll go with Donald since I did Isaac.
Well, violence is never the answer unless it escalates to, like, just them talking all the time. Then maybe they need a slap across the face to have a realization that you're just being really dirty. No, but seriously, I feel like you need communication. Communication is the key to prevent drama, because who wants drama, honestly? It could be entertaining, yes, but, like, to you, if you're in the drama situation, if you're in a sticky situation, you don't want that. So
Correct.
You need to communicate with them and find ways to not offend someone, because drama always happens when someone takes it personally. That's how drama kind of just escalates to that. So.
Okay, what do you have to say about it, Isaac?
Well, I would say for most people, when it comes to drama, it's amusing when you are watching it, but not so amusing when you're a part of it. So I'm gonna focus on trying to avoid being a part of it, and I would say finding a way to create some dialogue between you and this person. So I would say that maybe from the first day that one of you moves in together, first impressions.
Yeah.
Taking into account that you're moving in with someone new that you might not know, that they're coming from somewhere different. Just maybe taking the time to observe how they act and get a sense of, you know, what they're used to, and trying to make a good first impression, and then moving on from that to try and make some make some kind of dialogue to make some pleasant feelings happen between you and that person, so that you can, you know, you can let them down gently. You know, if they are, you know, if they have an unpleasant smell, or if they're not cleaning their dishes, or if they're not getting rid of leftover food from a guest that they, you know, entertained, letting them down gently. But if the person already doesn't like you because, you know, you haven't really tried to make a good impression on them, you haven't tried to understand what's going on, then it's a lot more difficult to get through to that person. So yeah, that's about it. That's what I got.
That's pretty good. My next thing is about like your property. Let's say like you have roommates and you have friends, and that person sees the shoes, or see this, or see like a game, or sees some kind of entertainment that they like and they want. But though is they don't ask you for it, they just automatically think that, oh, we're friends, it's fine. Any comments about that?
Well, in regards to property, I think everyone would love to be able to just leave their cell phone, for example, on a countertop and be able to return to it whenever they need it, because the person they live with is simply trustworthy,
Yes.
Understanding, well-mannered, and so they know that this is your personal device and that you use it on a daily basis, for example. So rather than just take it and do whatever they want with it, they ask you for permission, creating some kind of like, I don't know, roommate agreement like in the Big Bang Theory, but not to like such a hardcore extent, to create some level of common expectations when using each other's things would be great. But for the most part, you know, things don't start off that way when you're moving in with someone, and you have to keep things to yourself, because the likelihood that your stuff is going to get stolen it's pretty high. Yeah, it's pretty high possibility. So that's one expectation. Your stuff getting stolen because you don't really know each other and you don't care about each other and all that stuff. You have to expect that when you're moving in with someone new, and then you have to try and deal with it.
I agree with Isaac. If it's not yours, do not touch it. Honestly, like, people are savages. I find people are savages. If there's like, I know my past roommate, she used to like use my ketchup, and I told her, no, don't use my ketchup. I personally don't want you using it because you didn't ask me, so I just feel like that there's no trust. So then she took ketchup packets from McDonald's and used those, and I was like, oh my gosh. But with personal belongings, I'm okay with sharing it as long as you ask. Like if you ask, then that's great. We can share something. But if you're going to steal it, then you're going to be a savage, and people have this morality of beg, borrow, and steal. And if they steal something, they can just sell it. So I feel like when you have possession, it's yours, and do not touch it. So.
Okay. Those are some great info. I'm amazed. I'm amazed of all that. And I thank Isaac thank you for coming out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Donald, for coming out as
you.
well. You guys were great. Thank you a lot. Until next time at Nightshade. Goodbye.